The sky over Vega 9 was dark red, filled with smoke and fire. The last human base on the planet was almost destroyed. Explosions shook the ground every few minutes. The alien army, the Zorvax, had surrounded them. There was no help coming. No one was answering their calls. Commander Rhea stood near the broken communication tower. Her face was tired, her armor dirty with dust and blood. She looked around at the few soldiers left. Their eyes were empty. They had been fighting too long. She turned to her second-in-command, Captain Lin. "How long until they break through?" Lin checked the scanner. "Not long. Maybe an hour. Maybe less." Rhea looked up at the sky. For a moment, she stayed quiet. Then she said something strange. "There's one option left." Lin frowned. "What option?" "There are no more weapons. No ships. We're stuck here." Rhea didn't answer right away. She just stared at the ground. "There's something under the base. A vault. A sealed room from the old wars. It's never been opened." Lin's eyes widened. "You mean the Black Vault?" Rhea nodded slowly. "That one." Lin stepped back. "Commander, that vault is marked, 'Do not open. Ever.' It's locked. For a reason. Even Command said it's dangerous." "We're already dead," Rhea said quietly. "Maybe it's time we try something dangerous." No one argued. Not now. Not when death was knocking on every wall of the base. Rhea led a small team deep into the underground tunnels. These were old sections of the base, built long ago and forgotten. The walls were cold and covered in dust. Power lights flickered as they walked. Finally, they reached a giant metal door. It had no handle, no buttons, just a single scanner and a warning in red. "Seal Class Alpha, authorized personnel only, do not open." Rhea stepped forward. "I'm authorizing it." Lin hesitated. "Even if we open it, we don't know what's inside." Rhea looked back at him. "And if we don't? We're dead anyway." She pressed her hand against the scanner. A deep hum filled the air. The vault door clicked once, twice, then slowly opened with a loud hiss. Cold mist poured out, like the vault had been frozen for centuries. Inside it was dark, but a red glow lit the center of the room. Everyone stepped in slowly. Their boots echoed on the metal floor. In the middle stood something that looked like a coffin. But it wasn't. It was a pod, long, black, and covered in wires. A soft pulse of red light blinked at the top. The pod was still sealed. "What is that?" one soldier whispered. Rhea walked closer. "Project Revenant," she said. Lin looked shocked. "That's just a myth. That thing was made during the First Galactic War. They said it was too powerful, even for us." Rhea looked at the pod. Her voice was low. "It was made to save us when nothing else could. But they feared it. They sealed it away, only to be opened if humanity faced total destruction." "Like now," Lin said. Rhea reached for the control panel. "Exactly." She typed in the emergency code. The pod hissed louder. Steam poured out from the sides. The red light blinked. Faster. A sound like a heartbeat filled the room. Slow, then faster and louder. The pod clicked. Opened. Inside was a figure. Human in shape, but clearly not normal. Its skin was pale. Its eyes were closed. Muscles strong like carved stone. A metal tag on its chest read, "Revenant, Gen 1. Do not activate without command. Override." Then, its eyes opened. They weren't normal eyes. They glowed faintly, like something ancient had just woken up. Everyone in the room stepped back. No one spoke. No one moved. The figure slowly sat up. It didn't say anything, just looked around. Its gaze stopped on Rhea. Something in the air changed. The temperature dropped. "Can you understand me?" Rhea asked carefully. The figure nodded once. "Do you know who you are?" A pause. Then it said in a deep, calm voice, "I was built to end wars. Are there wars? Yes, Rhea said. And we're losing. The Revenant stood up. He was tall. Taller than anyone in the room. He didn't wear armor, but it felt like he didn't need it. Then point me to the enemy, he said. Everyone looked at Rhea. She hesitated. This was it. No turning back now. She spoke into her wrist comm. Prepare a dropship. We're sending something out. What's something? Came the reply. Rhea looked at the Revenant and said, Our last chance. As they walked back toward the surface, alarms started ringing. The Zorvax had broken the outer wall. Time was running out. Outside, soldiers were falling back, trying to hold the line. But morale was low. They had no hope left, until they saw him. The Revenant walked out of the base alone. No gun, no armor, just him. The Zorvax paused. Something about him made even their war beasts hesitate. A strange wind blew across the battlefield. Then, without warning, Revenant moved. What happened next didn't look like war. It looked like a storm, like death itself had walked onto the field. Zorvax screamed. Fires rose. Bodies flew. The soldiers couldn't believe what they saw. One whispered, "He's not human." From the command tower, Rhea watched in silence. They had awakened the thing the galaxy feared most, and now, nothing would ever be the same again. The battlefield was quiet now. Too quiet. Smoke floated through the air. The bodies of Zorvax lay scattered across the broken land, some burned, some torn apart, others missing entirely. No one knew how it happened so fast. It had taken the Revenant less than 5 minutes to crush the whole attack force. Not a single shot was fired from him. He never picked up a weapon. And yet, everything around him died. Commander Rhea stood on the top platform of the base, watching the silent figure return. The Revenant walked slowly, like he had all the time in the world. He didn't look tired. He didn't speak. His face showed no emotion, just calm. Too calm. Soldiers moved out of his way, eyes wide, afraid to even breathe near him. One young soldier whispered, "Is he on our side?" But no one answered. Back inside the base, Rhea called for Dr. Karn, the head scientist who once worked on secret government projects. He had studied the vault files before, though no one believed it would ever be opened. Dr. Karn rushed to the main control room. His hands were shaking. "You actually woke him up," he said, staring at the screen that showed Revenant walking into the base. "He saved us," Rhea replied. "Yes, for now," Karn said in a low voice. "But you don't understand what that thing is." "He's human." "No, Commander. He's something else now. You read the same reports I did. Revenant was part of the final phase of Project Endstorm. He was not made to win wars. He was made to end them, completely. To erase civilizations, not just defeat them." Rhea turned away from the screen. "That's why we sealed him away. But now, he's our only hope." Karn stepped closer. "You don't command him. You woke him. That's all. He decides what happens next." Down below, the Revenant stood in the base's main hallway. His eyes scanned the walls like he remembered, every corner. He walked past old signs, past soldiers who stood like statues when he passed by. He finally stopped at a sealed door marked Restricted Level 7 War Files. Without touching anything, the door opened. Inside was a long, empty room filled with dark glass panels, old human war data, locked systems. The lights flickered on one by one. The screens came alive. Maps of the galaxy appeared. Locations of human bases. Locations of alien strongholds. Codes, records, classified files. Things even Rhea wasn't allowed to see. He stood there, quiet, as if downloading it all into his mind. Back in the command room, alarms suddenly started to flash. "Someone is accessing restricted war files," one technician shouted. It's the Revenant, Karn said. He's remembering everything. What does he want? Rhea asked. Karn stared at the screen. He's not a soldier. He doesn't care about orders. He's war itself. You opened the vault, Rhea. Now he's deciding what to do. Suddenly, the base lights blinked. The power dropped for 2 seconds, then came back. Everyone froze. He's in our system, said another tech. The Revenant just bypassed our security. He's activating something. What is he activating? Rhea demanded. The tech looked confused. I don't know. It's called Protocol Omega. It's not in our files. It looks ancient. Pre-digital era. Dr. Karn turned pale. Protocol Omega was designed as a last resort failsafe. It sends a pulse across the galaxy. It wakes up other hidden weapons, other sleeping projects like the Revenant. You mean, Rhea asked. He's not the only one? Karn whispered. He might be the first, but not the last. Outside, satellites began sending out strange signals. Silent beacons buried in long-lost planets began to blink for the first time in hundreds of years. Across the stars, old human war machines stirred. Machines that were never supposed to wake again. Back inside the base, Revenant turned away from the control room. He walked toward the lift alone. A soldier tried to stop him. Sir, you need permission to... Revenant didn't touch him. He just looked at the soldier. The soldier dropped his weapon and stepped back, eyes full of fear. Revenant entered the lift. No one followed. Rhea stood watching through the monitors. She didn't know what was worse. Losing the war to the Zorvax, or winning it with something they couldn't control. I need answers, she said. Karn nodded. Then you need to go where he's going. Where's that? Karn pointed to the blinking red dot on the map. The core chamber. That's where the original designs were made. That's where the truth is. Rhea took a deep breath and turned to Lin. Gear up. We're going down. As they entered the deep levels of the base, the air grew colder. The walls were older here, untouched for 100 years. Strange writing appeared on the walls, symbols from the first era of human expansion. Symbols for war, silence, and death. Rhea looked at one broken panel. It said, He doesn't fight for us. He fights because we exist. She stared at the message, heart heavy. What had they brought back, and what price would the galaxy pay for it? The deep levels of the base felt like a tomb. The walls were cold, the lights dim. Dust floated in the air, untouched for 100 years. Rhea walked slowly, her flashlight cutting through the darkness. Lin followed close behind, weapon ready. Dr. Karn stayed just a few steps back, his face pale with worry. The further they went, the more strange markings appeared on the walls, symbols from the first expansion era. Most of them were warnings. Some were names, others were instructions meant for people who never returned. Finally, they reached the core chamber. The door was massive, thick and sealed by old mechanical locks. Rhea placed her hand on the scanner. It didn't respond. But before she could try again, the door opened by itself. Revenant was already inside. He stood in front of an old machine, a massive sphere of black metal covered in red lines. It pulsed softly, like it had a heartbeat. Around it were cables, broken screens, and dead control panels. In the center of the sphere was a chair. No one had touched it in years. Rhea stepped in slowly. What is this place? Dr. Karn answered, in a whisper. This is where Project Revenant was born. The Revenant didn't turn. He just stared at the machine, silent. Rhea walked closer. You came here for a reason. Why? The Revenant finally spoke. To remember. The machine lit up. Old holograms appeared in the air. Images of war, cities burning, alien fleets shattered in space. Soldiers running, screaming, human experiments. One of the holograms showed a lab. Inside, scientists stood around a man strapped to a chair. His body was broken, but alive. Wires stuck into his skull. Machines pumped strange fluids into him. Slowly, that man began to change. His muscles grew. His skin became pale. His eyes turned red. Rhea's eyes widened. "Is that you?" Revenant nodded. "I volunteered. I wanted to save humanity, but they changed me into something else." Another image flashed. It showed the Revenant tearing through alien forces, but then it changed. The next scene showed him turning on human soldiers, killing them too. He was unstoppable, uncontrolled. Dr. Karn looked at the floor. They tried to shut him down, but they couldn't. So instead, they trapped him, sealed him away, erased. "The records," Lynn whispered. "Why would anyone make something like this?" Revenant turned to them. "Because one day, the galaxy would push humanity too far, and they wanted to be ready, even if it meant building a monster." Rhea stared at him. "What are you now? Human? Machine?" "I am memory," he said. "I remember what they did. I remember the pain, and now I remember my purpose." Before anyone could speak, the machine pulsed again. A new hologram appeared, this time showing other locations across the galaxy. Red marks blinked across maps, some near dead planets, some inside old black sites, some hidden in asteroid fields. Karn's face went pale. "Those are the other revenants, the ones we never finished. Or maybe we did, and we just forgot." Rhea stepped forward. "Are you planning to wake them up?" Revenant stared at her. "I sent the signal. They're already waking." "Why?" Rhea asked. "You stopped the Zorvax. Why bring more death?" Revenant's voice grew colder. "Because this is not over. The Zorvax were only the beginning. Something else is coming. Something worse. I've seen it." "What do you mean?" Lynn asked. The hologram shifted again. It showed a strange object, massive, dark, almost like a moon, but moving. Around it floated hundreds of smaller ships. The machine labeled it Unknown Entity, Class Sigma Void. Karn stared in horror. "That's not from our galaxy. That's something else." Revenant spoke slowly. "It's coming. I was created not just to fight aliens. I was made to stop what comes after them. The ones who erase stars, the ones who feed on civilizations." Rhea felt a chill. "Then we need to prepare." Revenant shook his head. "It's too late for preparing. The only way to survive is to awaken the forgotten. Let the dark weapons rise. Let the galaxy remember what humans built in fear." Suddenly, the base alarms rang out again. A voice came through the speakers. "Commander Rhea, we're detecting something near orbit. Unknown ships. They're huge, and they just dropped out of FTL." Rhea ran to the console. The screen showed 5 massive ships, dark, silent, covered in strange shapes. They weren't Zorvac. They weren't human. They weren't anything known. Revenant stared at the screen. "They've arrived." Lynn stepped back. "Those are..." Revenant answered. "The first scouts of the Void Armada." The chamber fell silent. Rhea clenched her fists. "Then we fight." Revenant looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "Yes, but not alone." He turned toward the machine. His hand pressed against the black sphere. A low hum filled the air. Lights on the walls began to blink in patterns. Far away, deep in space, old bunkers and frozen satellites lit up. Across the galaxy, the forgotten woke up. The weapons of fear, the monsters humanity created, the army that had no soul, the revenants were rising, and the real war had just begun. The dark ships in orbit didn't move. They just hovered there like shadows, silent, watching. No one could tell what they were made of, metal, bone, or something worse. The human base was quiet, too, waiting. Soldiers stood ready, hands shaking, staring at the sky as if a nightmare was about to drop on them. Inside the control room, alarms kept flashing. The scanners couldn't lock on the ships. "It's like they're not fully real," a technician said. "They don't reflect light the right way. Their heat signature is wrong." Dr. Karn stared at the data. "This matches the records of the Sigma Void entities, but these readings are incomplete. Even the old programs can't read them." Commander Rhea didn't look away from the screen. "Do they know we're here?" "They know," Revenant said calmly. "They're testing us." The largest ship slowly began to open. Its metal skin peeled back like layers of dead skin. Something floated out. Not a fighter, not a bomb, just a shape. It drifted toward the planet like a falling ghost. The Revenant stepped forward. "Let me meet it." Rhea turned quickly. "Alone? That's suicide." He shook his head. "They won't attack me. Not yet. They're curious. They've never seen one like me. And I need to see if what I remember is true." Rhea didn't agree, but she didn't stop him either. Outside, the wind howled as Revenant stepped onto the surface. The sky was dark with clouds. The shape from the void ship had landed, a tall figure made of black smoke and silver bone. Its face had no eyes, just a long mouth that didn't move. Revenant stopped 20 feet away. The creature tilted its head like a wolf sniffing an old enemy. "You remember me?" Revenant asked. The creature didn't speak, but somehow a sound echoed in Revenant's mind. Not a voice, a thought. "You were a mistake." Revenant smiled faintly. "No, I was your warning." The ground beneath them trembled. The creature spread its arms and tiny, dark insects swarmed out from under its skin, crawling toward Revenant. But before they reached him, his body lit up with red veins of energy. The insects stopped, then burned, then turned to dust. Inside the base, the soldiers watched on the screen with wide eyes. "He's pushing them back," Lynn whispered. But Dr. Karn didn't look relieved. This was just a test. "The Void wants to see how far he's come. The real attack hasn't started." Suddenly, in deep space, several more Void ships dropped out of light speed. Not 5, not 10, 50. Each one bigger than the last, each one carrying more than just a shape. Some held planets they had already eaten, moons carved like fruit, dead suns held in chains, and something worse. A massive black ring the size of Saturn, rotating slowly with no crew, no engines, and no known purpose. Back on the ground, Revenant returned. He looked tired, angry. "They're sending the first swarm next. We have hours." Rhea turned to Karn. "Can we launch the defense grid?" Karn shook his head. "Won't matter. We need more. We need the others." Revenant looked up. "They're coming, one by one." Just then, the base scanners picked up strange signals from deep space, old human frequencies, emergency codes from lost worlds, and then something impossible. An old ship, long believed destroyed, answered the call. Project Warden, the first, space-bound AI warship, built to protect Earth during the Dark Expansion. It had vanished a century ago. Now it was back. The signal was clear. "Revenant signal detected. Standing by for new command." Revenant smiled. They remember. Suddenly, a transmission burst onto all screens, scrambled, broken, but terrifying. It showed a planet. Burned, silent, all life gone, and in the center a crater with the Void's mark carved into it. Then a voice, cold, unfamiliar. "You woke up the monsters. Now you've invited death itself." The message ended. The room fell silent. Rhea looked at Revenant. "So what now?" He turned, his red eyes glowing. "Now we stop being afraid. Now we show the Void what fear really looks like." Behind him, the base shook, just a little, but enough to feel. In the deep levels below, another chamber began to open. Inside slept another revenant, not human, not male, a different design, sleeker, silent. Its eyes opened, bright white. She was awake, and she was angry. The second revenant stepped out of the cold chamber without saying a word. Her eyes glowed bright white. Her skin was pale silver, and her body moved with strange, smooth precision. She looked at the others as if she already knew them. And then she looked at Revenant. Designation, Seraph, she said, her voice soft, but echoing with power. Order received. Sigma Void threat confirmed. Revenant nodded. You remember? She closed her eyes for a moment. I remember everything. Rhea watched, stunned. How many of you are there? Revenant turned to her. 7. 7 revenants were built in secret, each one designed for a different purpose. I am Wrath. She is Precision. The others have not all awakened. Dr. Karn looked shocked. You weren't just one experiment. You were a whole project. Suddenly, warning lights flashed again. The ground above rumbled. The first swarm had arrived. Black specks fell from the sky, like ash. But they weren't ash. They were living, crawling, feeding. The creatures hit the ground and began spreading. Soldiers opened fire, but it wasn't enough. Bullets only slowed them. One soldier shouted, "They don't bleed, they just keep moving!" From the command room, Lin watched the swarm multiply. We need to get everyone underground. Revenant looked at Seraph. You take the surface, I'll hit the ships. Seraph didn't speak. She just moved, fast, inhuman fast. She flew upward, leaping from the ground as wings of glowing energy unfolded from her back. In seconds, she reached the battlefield and released a wave of light. The swarm hissed and burned under her power, but the creatures adapted fast. Some changed shape, some split into two, others burrowed underground. The swarm had intelligence, revenant. Meanwhile, stepped into the launch bay. A drop pod stood ready. He entered without hesitation. Rhea followed, stopping him at the door. If you fail out there, I won't, he said. He dropped into the sky like a meteor. As he approached the enemy ships, the void changed shape again. One of the ships opened to release something. Massive, like a giant spider made of glass and shadows. It saw Revenant coming and launched hundreds of black tendrils toward him. But Revenant lit up like a star, slicing through the tendrils with red energy blades. He reached the ship's hull and punched through it, entering the dark interior. Inside, it was cold, silent. The ship wasn't flown, it was alive. Revenant tore through it, seeking the brain. Back on the ground, Seraph was in the middle of 1,000 enemies, glowing like a ghost on fire. Her blade spun in the air, cutting through dozens of creatures with every swing. But even she was slowing down. They were learning her movements. They were changing. Inside the base, Dr. Karn saw something on the screen. Commander Rhea, the Void Swarm is ignoring our soldiers now. They're heading for the ancient vault. Rhea's heart sank. They're trying to stop the other revenants from waking. She turned to Lin. Seal off every lower level. If they get there, it's over. But just then, one screen went black. Then another. The swarm was inside the base. Explosions rang out. Gunfire echoed through the halls. The base shook, and in the shadows of the lower levels, a strange voice whispered from the walls. You broke the lock, it said. Now let us see if you're still human at all. In the darkest chamber of the base, another pod began to hiss. This time, the creature inside wasn't like the others. Bigger, broken, caged in chains even stronger than the first two. The pod cracked. Open, Steam hissed, then silence. The room stayed dark, but something moved in the shadows, something old, something furious. Above ground, Seraph suddenly stopped fighting. Her head turned sharply. He's awake! Revenant inside the void ship also felt it, his body tensed. Not yet. He's not ready. But it was too late. From deep beneath the earth, the third revenant let out a roar. So loud, so violent, the entire planet seemed to shake. The void ships paused. Even they didn't expect him to wake, and as his massive form rose from the earth, the soldiers above saw only one thing: a giant, covered in armor made of black stone, with eyes like burning suns, and on his chest, one word, burned into the metal: ruin. The revenants were no longer just legends. They were a storm, and the storm had begun. The ground split open as Ruin climbed out of the earth. He was huge, twice the size of a tank, his armor thick like mountain stone. Fire burned deep inside him. His face had no mouth, no nose, just two glowing red eyes and cracks across his head like scars from a war long forgotten. Soldiers nearby froze when they saw him. Even the void swarm stopped for a moment. Seraph landed next to him, breathing hard. Her white glow dimmed. "You shouldn't be awake yet." Ruin didn't answer. He looked around at the battlefield, the burning sky, the swarm closing in again. His voice, when it finally came, wasn't spoken. It was felt. A deep echo inside every human's bones. They came for war. Then I will give them war. With one stomp, the ground exploded beneath him. Hundreds of void creatures were thrown into the air. With a sweep of his arm, a shockwave tore across the battlefield, flattening everything in its path. Seraph flew into the air again, joining the attack, but this time she wasn't leading. She was supporting. Ruin was now the center. Inside the void ship, Revenant reached the core, a floating black crystal surrounded by wires and strange metal veins. It pulsed like a heart, but darker, rotten. He reached out and touched it. Memories hit him all at once, of war, of other galaxies, of civilizations screaming before being erased by the void. And then a voice spoke directly to him. "You were made by our enemies, shaped to destroy us. But you carry our touch too. We are inside you, always." Revenant gritted his teeth. "I carry what you fear. I carry choice." He planted a charge inside the core and jumped out just as the ship cracked apart. Below, the battle raged. The void swarm had grown even stronger. New forms appeared, creatures with wings, teeth, eyes all over their bodies. Some could copy the Revenant's movements. Some healed when shot. Some didn't even die when blown apart. They simply rebuilt. Dr. Karn was panicking inside the base. "They're adapting too fast. Even Ruin can't hold them forever." Rhea looked at the ancient screen flashing in front of her. A map showed the locations of the other 4 Revenants. One was in orbit, one on Mars, one buried under an ocean, trench, and one location unknown. She turned to Lynn. "Send the call. Wake them all." But the protocol... Forget the protocol! If we don't bring them now, this planet won't survive another hour. Back on the battlefield, Ruin roared again. He wasn't slowing down, but his armor was cracking. Black ichor from the swarm had started to eat through his joints. Seraph tried to burn them off, but there were too many. She shouted to the sky, "Where is he?" Then, like an answer, the clouds split apart. A ship entered the atmosphere, sleek, fast, burning like a falling star. It crashed into the middle of the swarm and exploded in white light. From the smoke, another figure stepped out, a 4th Revenant. His armor was silver and blue, his eyes sharp like ice. He held no weapons, only his hands glowing with power. The air around him crackled. Revenant landed beside him. "Took you long enough?" The newcomer smiled faintly. "I got lost." Ruin let out a laugh, short and deep. Even in war, the Revenants remembered who they were. The new one looked at the swarm and raised his hands. The clouds above turned dark, then twisted. Thunder rolled. Lightning struck. Again and again. Each bolt hit the swarm like a hammer. From the gods. He didn't speak his name, but the others knew him. He was Tempest. And now, with 4 revenants on the field, the void finally paused. The battlefield went silent. Some of the swarm even backed away. Inside one of the largest enemy ships, a new creature awakened. Bigger than the others, smarter, older. It looked almost human but taller, with white hair and pitch-black skin. It turned to its guards and said in a cold, slow voice, "So, the broken ones still fight. I suppose I must go down there myself." The doors of the massive ship opened. The ancient void leader began to descend. Rhea, watching from the base, whispered, "Who is that?" Revenant felt a shiver through his spine. "He's not a commander." He looked up. "He's the one who built the void." The Ancient One stepped onto the battlefield, quiet as death. His body looked human, but it wasn't. His skin was smooth and black like space. His eyes were empty, cold, but worst of all, he smiled. Void creatures pulled back as he walked. Even they feared him. The Revenants stood together, Revenant, Seraph, Ruin, and Tempest. They watched him come closer. Revenant whispered, "He doesn't. Just lead the swarm. He controls it, feels everything they feel. Every strike we make, he learns." The ground shuddered. In the distance, oceans boiled. Storms ripped across the skies. The planet itself began to twist under the pressure of so much power. Sarah flew forward, blades glowing. "We end him now!" She struck. But the Ancient One didn't even raise a hand. Her attack stopped mid-air, frozen in place. Her body dropped like a stone. She hit the ground, stunned. The Ancient One spoke. His voice was low, almost gentle. "You are machines, lost things, failed weapons. Why do you fight for a species that will only fear you?" Revenant stepped forward. "Because they're still human, and that's something you'll never understand." The Ancient One tilted his head. "You are human, and something else. I offered you eternity, but you chose suffering." Ruin charged. No words, just fury. He hit the Ancient One with everything. Shockwaves, punches, raw burning energy. Mountains crumbled behind him. But when the dust cleared, the Ancient One stood unharmed. With one gesture, he pushed Ruin back, slamming him into the earth, cracking his stone armor. Ruin groaned, not in pain, but in rage. Tempest sent bolts of lightning. The sky screamed with thunder, but the Ancient One only raised a finger, and all the lightning turned to silence. Everything stopped, even the wind, even the void swarm. Revenant stared at the Ancient One. He knew this moment would come. He reached into his chest and pulled free a small shard. It glowed red. The core of his power, the thing that made him more than machine. Dr. Karn's voice came through the radio. "Wait! If you do this, you'll—" "I know." He turned to Seraph. "Protect them." She looked at him, eyes wide. "Revenant—" "Tell Rhea." She was right to believe. He looked at the Ancient One and walked forward slowly. "Was made to destroy threats," he said. "I chose to protect life." He stabbed the shard into the ground. The earth pulsed. The Ancient One stepped back, confused for the first time. "What are you doing?" Revenant smiled, giving them a future. The shard exploded. Not in fire, but in light. Pure, blinding light. A wave that spread in every direction. The void screamed. The swarm cracked and withered. The sky cleared. The Ancient One tried to escape, but the light followed him. It burned not his body, but his mind. His connection to the swarm shattered. He roared and vanished. When the light faded, the battlefield was quiet. Ruin stood slowly. Seraph helped him up. Tempest looked to the sky. Revenant was gone. Only a crater remained where he had stood. Later, on the surface, humans climbed out of bunkers. They looked around, unsure if it was over. It was. For now. Inside the base, Rhea stared at the empty command chair where Revenant once stood. A tear slipped down her cheek. "He chose us," she whispered. Dr. Karn nodded. "He always did." But deep in the stars, something stirred. The void wasn't gone completely, and the Ancient One, though defeated, wasn't dead. He drifted in silence, broken, but watching, waiting. Because the Revenants were powerful, but they were still human. And humanity always made the same mistake. They hoped. But hope, in the hands of humans, was never weak. It was the weapon the universe had always feared. And now, it had returned.